Yo, listen up. You think you're free? Nah, the streets aren't quiet, they're screaming. Oh wow, every move you make, tracked, logged, filed. Your smile at the cafe? Click, captured. The way you fidget with your phone? Yeah, flagged. They've had you under the glass for months, bro. Months. And now, guess what? They don't want to just watch anymore. Nah. They want a meeting face to face, private, silent. The eye never sleeps, and that's the part that breaks most men. You thought you were walking freely. You thought your steps were yours. But every door you opened, every screen you lit up, every sigh you released into the midnight air was caught, logged, measured, like a hawk circling above prey that doesn't even know it's bleeding. And that's the cruel beauty of it. Surveillance doesn't strike fast. No, it's patient. It sits. It waits. It drinks you in like a shadow that refuses to leave your wall. And month by month, it grows heavier, pressing down on your chest until the silence in your own room feels foreign. Oh, the irony. They don't watch you because you're small. They watch you because you're sharp enough to cut. Weak ones are ignored. Sheep get herded. But you're a puzzle that unsettles them. A spark they can't smother with routine. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You don't collapse under their quiet pressure. That's why the eye chose you. Wow. Just think about it. An entire system of screens, wires, codes, satellites, and faceless watchers, all tilting their gaze toward you. Not because they love you. Nah, because they fear the possibility that you're something they can't cage. And nothing disturbs power more than uncertainty. And here's the brutal truth. You've already been turned into data. A profile. A case file thick with notes, timestamps, and observations. But that file isn't their victory. It's their confession. Because every page they've written about you screams one thing they'll never admit out loud. You matter more than you should. Yeah, they'll never say it. They'll wrap it in terms like risk or concern. But beneath the jargon, beneath the ink, the message is simple. You stand out. And standing out is the one crime their system cannot forgive. So, the months pass. The watchers keep watching. And you keep moving. Living, growing, evolving. Until the day arrives when the silence breaks. Until the message arrives. Until the whisper lands in your ear. They want to meet. Oh, that word. Meeting. It sounds casual. It sounds civil, but you know better. That's not a meeting, that's a test. That's the shadow stepping out of the corner and asking if you've noticed it all along. They don't want to talk. They want to measure. They want to see if you'll break when the mask of silence finally speaks. And maybe, just maybe, they want to know if you're the kind of person who bends or the kind of person who burns. Because when the hunter finally shows itself, the story changes. And it's no longer about them watching you. It's about them realizing you've been watching yourself. And that's the part they can't calculate. The first trap isn't the chains, it's the chair. Imagine it. A room without windows. No clocks. No drafts of air to remind you that the outside world still exists. Just 4 blank walls, a table, and that single chair they've saved for you. That's where they'll place you. That's where they'll test you. They'll smile, but the smile won't reach their eyes. They'll shuffle their papers, but the papers will already be written. They'll ask questions, but the answers won't matter. Because this meeting isn't about words. It's about weight. The weight of silence. The weight of pressure. The weight of you under their stare. Oh, the setup. It's clean, neat, clinical. But don't let the simplicity fool you. That table is their stage. That chair is their weapon. They don't need whips or cuffs when they've perfected something sharper. The illusion of control. And here's where the mistake begins. They think you walked in unarmed. They think surveillance weakened you, drained you, stripped you down to data. But in reality, every month they watched, you adapted. You learned to breathe under pressure. You learned to move with shadows instead of fighting them. You learned that silence could be louder than any confession. Wow. That's the irony. Their patience trained you. Their surveillance sharpened you. What they thought was a leash became your forge. And now, when you sit in that chair, you don't come as prey. You come as a storm contained in human skin. Yeah. They'll lean forward trying to sense weakness. They'll lower their voices, pretending to be calm, pretending to be in control. But the truth seeps out in the cracks, the way they adjust their tie too often, the way their pen clicks one time too many, the way their gaze flickers when you don't play along. They expect trembling. They expect collapse. Instead, they're confronted with stillness. Nah, you don't need to flail or shout. You don't need to answer their questions at all. Because the room without windows is not their weapon anymore. It's your mirror. Every second you sit there in silence, you force them to confront themselves. You flip the game, and suddenly, they are the ones under the microscope. And the beauty of it? You don't even need to break them directly. You just let them realize what they've unleashed. They wanted obedience, but what they've cultivated is resistance. They wanted control, but what they've sculpted is defiance. The chair they thought would contain you is the very stage that reveals you. And when they finally understand that, the silence in that room won't belong to them anymore. It'll belong to you. Control isn't stolen with fists. It's stolen with stillness. You sit there. No words, no answers. Just the hum of their machine, the scratching of their pen, the clicking of their clockless time. And that silence, it eats them alive. Oh, they expected resistance. Resistance is predictable. A raised voice, a slammed hand, a desperate attempt to escape. But silence? Silence is unpredictable. Silence is dangerous, because silence forces them to listen to the one sound they fear most. Their own thoughts. The room without windows suddenly feels smaller. Their voices echo too loudly. Their questions begin to sound like confessions. And the longer you say nothing, the more they realize this isn't an interrogation. This is a mirror. Wow. Look at them. Adjusting their papers, shifting in their seats, glancing at one another for reassurance. And yet none comes. Because deep inside, they know they're the ones cracking. Not you. Not the one they've been watching for months. Them, the mighty watchers, now under the weight of their own scrutiny. Yeah, that's the trick. You don't give them what they want. You don't flinch. You don't stumble. You just breathe, slow, steady, deliberate. And every second of that breath is louder than any scream could ever be. Nah, silence doesn't mean weakness. It means control. It means you've chosen not to play their game. And when someone refuses to play, the entire game collapses. The board flips, the rules shatter, and the players left behind don't know where to place their next move. And here's the truth they'll never admit. Silence is a weapon sharper than any blade, because words can be twisted, shouts can be ignored, but silence cannot be denied. Silence lingers, silence spreads, silence suffocates, and when your silence stretches long enough, you'll see it in their eyes. The flicker, the unease, the subtle panic buried beneath their trained expressions. They came to measure you, but now they're measuring themselves. They came to intimidate you, but now they're intimidated by the void you've created. Oh, the beauty of it. Without saying a single word, you've turned their entire machine upside down. You've reminded them that observation doesn't equal control. Watching doesn't mean owning. Measuring doesn't mean mastering. And in that moment, silence is no longer just absence. It's presence. It's weight. It's the invisible hammer that cracks their polished masks. But eventually, silence alone isn't enough. Because silence creates pressure. And pressure always demands release. A word can be a whisper or a blade. It depends on who wields it. The silence stretched long enough. They lean in, expecting collapse. They wait for you to break, for your tongue to slip under pressure. And then you speak. But it isn't the desperate voice they wanted. It isn't trembling, it isn't pleading, it's something colder, something steadier. A voice that doesn't rise yet cuts deeper than any scream. Oh, the shift. The entire room changes when the first word leaves your mouth. It's not volume that unsettles them, it's precision, because you don't speak to answer, you speak to expose. Wow. Watch them freeze. Their pens stop moving. Their breathing stumbles for just a fraction of a second. Because the voice they feared finally arrived. Not loud, not wild, but unshakable. A voice that sounds less like confession and more like judgment. Yeah, they'll try to regain control. They'll raise their brows, clear their throats, pretend they're still in command, but it's too late. You've flipped the atmosphere. Now every question they ask sounds hollow. Every attempt at authority sounds weak. Your words bend the room, make the walls lean in your direction. Nah, this isn't about giving them answers. This is about tearing their questions apart. They ask, "Why do you think we're here?" And you reply, "To see why your system trembles at one individual who refuses to kneel." They ask, "Do you know why you've been watched?" And you whisper back, "Because you can't understand how I move outside your design." Every line hits them harder than silence ever could. Because words can't be unseen once they're spoken. They linger, they stain. They replay in the minds of the listeners long after the room has emptied. Oh, that's the real terror. Your voice doesn't just answer, it rewrites the meeting itself. It proves that you are not under their eye anymore. They are under yours. And when the conversation falls back into silence, that silence no longer feels like their weapon. It feels like yours. You've cracked their illusion. You've stripped their performance. You've reminded them that authority is fragile when it faces clarity. And clarity is something they cannot steal, cannot forge, cannot fake. So now, when you lean back in that chair, the game is finished. They may still hold their papers, their devices, their authority badges, but none of it shields them from the fact that they've been pierced, not physically, but mentally. And wounds in the mind never close the same way. But here's the twist. The meeting was never the real battlefield. The real battle begins when you walk out of that door. The hardest chains to break are the ones you pretend not to see. You know what's wild? Most people walk around with invisible shackles on their minds, and they don't even flinch. They've gotten so used to their own limits that they actually start calling them normal. Oh wow, that's the trick of weakness. It convinces you that survival is enough, when deep down you know you were built for more. The real battle isn't outside, it's inside. That war between your comfort and your calling. And guess what? Comfort screams louder, but calling lasts longer. Yeah, you might say, but I'm not ready. Nah, readiness is a lie, sold to those who want an excuse to stay still. No one is ever ready. Readiness is forged in fire, in failure, in the moments when you collapse and realize standing back up is your only option. You don't wait to feel ready. You move, you stumble, you bleed a little, then one day, without even noticing, you've become unbreakable. Every great transformation has a point where quitting feels easier than breathing. That's the doorway. And most people turn back right there. They think the struggle is punishment. No, the struggle is proof. It's proof that you're pulling away from the chains, proof that the cage is trembling. If it hurts, it's working. If it burns, it's building. You don't escape by avoiding the pain. You escape by dragging it with you until it breaks apart. Oh wow, the silence that comes after the breaking is different. It's not peace that's gifted to you. It's peace you carved out with your own scars. That silence has weight. That silence has authority. People feel it before you even speak, because you didn't just learn resilience, you became it. You're not begging the world to see you anymore. The world can't ignore you. But here's the twist. The stronger you become, the more people around you get uncomfortable. Yeah, they'll clap for your rise in public, but behind closed doors, many will whisper, "Who does he think he is?" That's when you realize growth doesn't just separate you from your old self, it separates you from people who can't keep up. And that separation, it's not cruelty, it's clarity. You were never meant to carry everyone with you. Some only came to teach you how heavy dead weight really is. Some only came to test whether you'd still move forward with or without applause. And the day you learn to walk without needing their nods is the day you're finally free. Freedom isn't when no one can chain you. Freedom is when chains lose the power to tempt you. So, here we are. Huh? You thought you were the hunter. Nah, you're the prey. Every whisper you dropped, already written down. Every secret you thought was safe. Oh wow, burned into their files. And now, this so-called meeting, it ain't casual. Nah, it's the final test. The final mask off. Final mask off. Question is, when they slide that chair across the floor, when they lock those eyes on you, yeah, right into your soul, will you break, or will you laugh in their face? Will you, because in the end, surveillance ain't control. Fear ain't chains. And the real power is how you play when the spotlight finally burns on you. The moment you decided you would no longer live quietly, the moment you stood up after being knocked down one too many times, the moment you chose obedience over comfort, heaven took note, and so did opposition. Suddenly, things you thought were buried were dragged into the light. Old mistakes, old labels, old chapters you thought were closed. And now it feels like your name has been written on a very dangerous list. Your past was never meant to destroy you, even though it felt like it tried. Every mistake, every failure, every season where you fell short was not the end of your story, but the beginning of your formation. What you went through did not happen randomly, and it did not happen without purpose. God was not absent when you were struggling. He was shaping you. The pain you experienced was not proof that you were rejected, but evidence that you were being prepared for something greater than you could see at the time. Many people believe that their past disqualifies them, that because they failed once or many times, they can never be trusted with purpose again. But if failure had the authority to cancel calling, no one would ever rise. God does not choose people because they have no past. He chooses them because He can transform their past into power. What you survived is the very thing that gives you depth, compassion, and strength. You didn't break because there was something inside you that couldn't be destroyed. Your past was a test, not a verdict. It tested your endurance when quitting felt easier. It tested your faith when answers were delayed. It tested your character when no one was watching. You were learning obedience in obscurity, humility in loss, and perseverance in silence. Those lessons could not have been learned in comfort. They had to be learned in the fire, because fire reveals what is real and removes what is false. When people bring up your past, they often do it to remind you of your lowest moments. But what they don't realize is that those moments already did their worst and failed to stop you. The fact that you are still standing means the test worked. You gained wisdom where you once had confusion. You gained strength where you once felt weak. You gained faith where you once felt empty. What was meant to crush you instead trained you. God allows your past to exist in your story so that no one can deny His hand in your future. When you rise, it will not be because you were flawless, but because grace carried you. That is what makes your life powerful. People can argue with talent, but they cannot argue with transformation. They can question your methods, but they cannot erase your testimony. Your past proves that you can survive pressure, withstand disappointment, and still believe. It proves that you can fall and get back up without losing your identity. It proves that you are not built on convenience, but on conviction. And that is why your past was not meant to break you. It was meant to expose what was already inside you, a strength that only reveals itself when everything else is stripped away. What you lived through did not weaken you. It refined you, and now what once looked like a liability has become the very foundation that makes you dangerous to fear, doubt, and defeat. When you become a threat to darkness, you don't go unnoticed. You get investigated. The moment your life begins to move with purpose, resistance appears, not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are doing something right. Ordinary lives are ignored. Comfortable people are left alone. But the moment you start walking in alignment with what God placed inside you, you attract attention from forces that would rather keep you powerless. Being targeted is not a curse, it is confirmation. No one spends time watching something that has no impact. No one studies a life that is going nowhere. The reason your actions are questioned, your motives are doubted, and your past is examined is because your future is influential. You carry something that can disrupt patterns, challenge systems, and inspire others to rise. That kind of potential is dangerous to anything built on control and fear. The enemy never wastes energy on what is already defeated. He watches what he fears he cannot stop. When your name is being discussed, when your growth is being scrutinized, when your steps are being monitored, it's because your progress is noticeable. Your faith, your resilience, and your refusal to quit have marked you. You are no longer invisible, and visibility always attracts opposition before it attracts applause. This is where many people misunderstand the season they are in. They assume that pressure means they should retreat, slow down, or stay silent. But pressure is often proof that you are advancing. If you were off course, there would be no resistance. If you were walking in circles, no one would bother to challenge you. The presence of opposition means you are moving forward into territory that matters. God allows you to feel this weight not to overwhelm you, but to strengthen you. Just as muscles grow under resistance, your faith grows when it is tested. Being targeted forces you to rely less on your own strength and more on God's direction. It sharpens your discernment. It deepens your prayer. It teaches you how to stand firm when opinions are loud and support is thin. Those who dig into your life are often trying to find a reason to dismiss you. Because if they can discredit your past, they hope they can disarm your future. But what they don't understand is that your credibility does not come from perfection, it comes from endurance. You are still standing not because life was easy, but because God was faithful. Being labeled a threat does not mean you are in danger. It means you are effective. It means your life carries influence beyond yourself. It means that what God is doing through you cannot be ignored. Instead of shrinking under scrutiny, you are called to stand taller, walk straighter, and trust deeper. When you understand that being targeted is a sign of impact, fear loses its grip, and confidence rooted in God takes its place. When people reach for your past, it is rarely because they are concerned about truth. It is because they feel threatened by who you are becoming. If they could stop your present growth, they would not need to revisit your old story. The fact that they dig backward is proof that they have lost control over what is happening in front of them. Your transformation has moved beyond their influence, so they attempt to regain power by reminding you of a version of yourself that no longer exists. Your new life exposes the limits of their comfort. When you were struggling, uncertain, or dependent, your presence did not disturb them. But now that you are walking with clarity, confidence, and conviction, your progress confronts their excuses. Your obedience highlights their hesitation. Your healing reminds them of wounds they refuse to address. Instead of changing themselves, they try to reduce you to who you used to be. because the past feels safer than the truth unfolding right now. Old stories are often used as weapons when new realities cannot be controlled. People assume that if they repeat your former mistakes loudly enough, they can weaken your authority and slow your momentum. But what they fail to realize is that growth cannot be reversed by memory. You cannot unlearn what God has taught you. You cannot unsee what He has revealed. You cannot return to a mindset that He has already delivered you from. Your present strength is not fragile. It has been built through process. God does not erase your past to protect you from people's opinions. Instead, He strengthens your present so that opinions lose their power. Your identity is no longer dependent on approval, validation, or acceptance. It is anchored in purpose. That is why attempts to shame you feel louder but less effective. What once would have broken you now only reminds you of how far you've come. Those who try to control the narrative by referencing your past often do so because they feel left behind. Your obedience required courage, and courage creates distance. When you move forward in faith, not everyone can follow, and not everyone wants to. Some would rather pull you backward than confront their own fear of moving ahead, but their resistance is not your responsibility. Your present growth is evidence that God is at work, even if others refuse to acknowledge it. What He is building in you cannot be undone by gossip, accusations, or outdated versions of your story. The work is deeper than reputation. It is rooted in transformation, and transformation does not need permission to continue. As you walk forward, understand this: if they could control your present, they would not talk about your past. The fact that they can't means you are free. Your future is no longer negotiated by who you were, but directed by who God is shaping you to be. Resistance often feels like a warning sign, as if something has gone wrong and you should turn back, slow down, or question your direction. But many of the most important moments in life are marked not by ease, but by opposition. When resistance rises, it is not automatically a signal to retreat. More often, it is confirmation that you are moving into territory that matters. Comfort rarely guards anything valuable. Opposition does. If you were walking without purpose, nothing would push back. If your choices carried no weight, no one would challenge them. Resistance appears when your steps begin to shift environments, challenge patterns, and disrupt what has been settled for too long. The tension you feel is not meant to confuse you, it is meant to strengthen you. Just as resistance builds muscle, adversity builds spiritual endurance and clarity. God never promised a path without pressure, but He did promise presence within it. When resistance comes, it forces you to decide what you truly believe. It strips away borrowed faith and reveals what is rooted deep inside you. You learn whether your confidence is based on convenience or conviction, whether your trust depends on applause or obedience. These moments are uncomfortable, but they are necessary, because what cannot be tested cannot be trusted. Many people misinterpret resistance because they expect alignment to feel easy. But alignment often feels heavy before it feels peaceful. The weight you carry now is developing the strength you will need later. What feels like delay is often preparation. What feels like opposition is often confirmation that you are being positioned for greater responsibility. When doors close and voices rise against you, it doesn't mean you chose the wrong path. Sometimes it means you chose a path that requires courage. Every significant calling in Scripture encountered resistance before fulfillment. Not because God was absent, but because the assignment was impactful. Resistance reveals the value of what you are carrying. The danger is not in facing resistance, but in allowing it to redefine your direction. When you let opposition dictate your obedience, fear replaces faith. But when you understand that resistance is part of refinement, you stop taking it personally and start taking it seriously. You pray deeper. You listen closer. You walk more carefully, but also more confidently. God uses resistance to sharpen discernment. You learn to distinguish between distractions and divine warnings, between voices meant to protect and voices meant to discourage. Through opposition, your focus becomes clearer, your dependence stronger, and your resolve firmer. What once shook you begins to steady you. Resistance is not proof that you are failing. It is often proof that you are advancing. It means your life is no longer passive. It means your obedience is active. It means your faith is visible. And when faith becomes visible, it will be tested. So instead of asking why the road is hard, ask what strength is being formed. Instead of assuming resistance means stop, consider that it may mean stand. What you are facing now is not a warning to quit, but confirmation that what lies ahead is worth the fight. What many people call disqualification, God often calls preparation. The moments you wish you could erase are the very moments that shaped your discernment, your humility, and your dependence on Him. Your past does not remove you from purpose, it refines you for it. Without those experiences, you might have had ambition without wisdom, confidence without compassion, or authority without understanding. God knew what you would need, and He allowed you to learn it in ways that could not be taught in comfort. Qualification in God's kingdom is not about having a flawless record, but about having a surrendered heart. Perfection creates distance, but brokenness creates connection. People listen to those who have been where they are, who understand pain, failure, and recovery from the inside. Your credibility comes not from what you avoided, but from what you endured and allowed God to redeem. That is why your voice carries weight. It has been tested. The scars you carry are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of survival. They tell the story of a person who did not give up when quitting seemed reasonable. They speak of faith that remained even when circumstances tried to strip it away. Your past reveals not what defeated you, but what could not defeat you. And that resilience is what makes you trustworthy with influence. God does not waste experiences. Every setback taught you something about people, about yourself, and about Him. Every failure exposed areas that needed healing, alignment, or growth. Instead of bypassing those lessons, God allowed you to walk through them so you would be grounded, not inflated, when success arrived. What felt like delay was actually development. When others try to discredit you by pointing to your past, they are often unaware that your past is the very reason you are effective. You understand consequences, so you walk carefully. You understand pain, so you lead gently. You understand mercy, so you extend grace. These qualities cannot be learned secondhand. They must be lived. And because you lived them, You carry an authority that cannot be manufactured. God entrusts responsibility to those who have learned humility through failure. He places influence in the hands of those who know how fragile life can be without Him. Your past keeps you dependent, grounded, and teachable. It reminds you that everything you have now is the result of grace, not entitlement. So instead of hiding your story, honor what God has done through it. Your past is not an obstacle to your calling. It is the foundation that supports it. You are qualified not because you never fell, but because you fell, learned, surrendered, and rose again. And that journey has prepared you to carry purpose with wisdom, strength, and compassion. When you realize that you are on a dangerous list, the instinct is often to slow down, pull back, or protect yourself by becoming smaller. But that is the opposite of what this moment requires. Being marked is not a signal to retreat. It is a call to move forward with clarity and courage. You are not meant to hide when opposition appears. You are meant to advance with wisdom and confidence, knowing that what is watching you is no match for the God who is leading you. Fear tries to convince you that attention is a threat, but purpose understands that visibility is responsibility. When eyes are on you, it means your life is carrying influence beyond your own comfort. Retreating would not keep you safe. It would only delay what has already been set in motion. God did not bring you this far to pull you back now. He strengthened you for forward motion, not for retreat. Moving forward does not mean becoming reckless or defensive. It means becoming anchored. You stop reacting emotionally to criticism and start responding spiritually. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to every voice that questions you, because your validation comes from obedience, not approval. Forward movement requires trust that God is more invested in your destiny than any opposition is in your failure. When resistance rises, forward movement looks like consistency. You keep showing up. You keep praying. You keep building. You keep obeying even when affirmation is absent. Consistency confuses the enemy because it proves that intimidation has lost its power. Forward motion is not loud, it is steady. And steady obedience creates momentum that cannot be stopped by distraction or fear. This season also calls for discernment. Moving forward does not mean carrying everyone with you. Some relationships cannot survive your growth, not because you've changed for the worse, but because alignment has shifted. God may require distance not as punishment, but as protection. Advancing sometimes means letting go of what slows you down so you can carry what lies ahead. Being on a dangerous list means you are effective. It means your prayers matter, your faith is visible, and your obedience is producing impact. Instead of seeing that as a reason to shrink, see it as confirmation that you are walking in your assignment. The enemy reacts when he cannot control, but God directs when he intends to complete. Moving forward also means remembering that the battle is not personal. You are not fighting people. You are confronting fear, doubt, and limitation. Keeping your heart clean is part of advancing well. You don't repay resistance with bitterness. You repay it with integrity, focus, and continued obedience. So take the next step without waiting for conditions to improve. Walk forward even if confidence feels quiet. Advance even if clarity comes one step at a time. The fact that you are being watched means you are making progress. And as long as you keep moving in the direction God has set, no list formed against you will have the authority to stop what He has already decided to finish.